Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Good Mzansi with me, your host, Jared Petzer. During this time, a lot of us are going through our own sets of challenges, and it's so cool to listen to other people talk about challenges they've been through in their lives and how they've overcome those challenges. And I think sometimes we just need to hear it from somebody else's perspective, and know that we're not alone and we're not isolated in our thoughts and our emotions. So today I'm joined by a very, very cool dude. His name is Richard Wright. I had a pleasure of briefly meeting Richard at a talk earlier on, or towards the end of last year. And we're very happy to have him on our show with us. Richard, how are you going, my friend?
Hi there, Joe. Thanks so much for having me. Privilege and honor. And all good from my side, busier than ever. This period has been quite something. Turned my life on its head and forging forward, pivoting like crazy.
Crazy. What have you been busy with, man?
So talks. Literally, I'm one of those people who relies on the events industry, and within 3 days, beginning of lockdown, my entire calendar behind me had wiped out. Every single gig gone, either cancelled or postponed. So I'd had the best start of the year ever. January, February were crazy. And I was looking at the year thinking, wow, this is the year I make it as a speaker. And then all of a sudden, literally in 3 days, just gone. So yeah, reinventing myself and figuring out how to remain relevant out there. And that's been pretty easy, actually. In fact, the question I've been asking is just, how can I help? So that's all I do. I'm phoning up past clients and contacts and not selling anything, not trying to speak, not doing anything, just asking the question, how can I help you? And the response has been just amazing. I think, I'm sure you've seen it. Everybody out there is in desperate need of just a little bit of help, upliftment, motivation, inspiration, some encouragement. And that's what I do best.
Fantastic. It's a fascinating time. As you said, we've been busy. This is probably the busiest period, or this is like the busiest I've ever been since I started doing what we do. And it's amazing. It's not a lot of money generating stuff right now, but it certainly is a lot of networking and a lot of talking and a lot of assisting where we can. And I think that's pivotal to where we are right now. And it will obviously, in time, it will serve us in good stead. But for now, the most important thing is about connecting with people. And we need that connection, right? Given the fact that we've got this wall between us.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I've seen that some of the bigger clients that are still doing business right now, they're happy to pay, and that's great. And then that helps me out with the other ones. So essentially, I'm dealing with every single person on an individual basis, and they're companies that their businesses have come to a grinding halt. A lot of those. And wherever I can give back, I can. And as you say, as much as I say to people, there's zero indebtedness. There's no expectation. I know how the world works. And even just people sharing what I've done for them to somebody else it's come around in a circle. So as far as I'm concerned, the more I can do and the more I can put out there, whether it's now, whether it's another time in life, it always comes back. It's amazing. And I think the best part for me is it keeps me sane. The idea of I'm making a difference, and that I can, transform people's thoughts in just a tiny little way that can help them to move forward, makes me feel good, and being busy is good. I think the minute we stop moving forward in whatever direction that is, that's the minute we get into our heads, and when that happens, it's not good for anybody. Absolutely. I've had a couple of those days. It's not great.
Absolutely, Richard. Now you've got a pretty remarkable story. Can you just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am as I said, I'm a speaker, full-time speaker. That's not what I did full-time. I've been a coach and a real estate trainer, and always been involved in human development in some sort of way or another, and also an endurance athlete. I used to be a relatively useful Ironman athlete back in the day. I've won a couple of age group records. I've come 16th overall in Ironman South Africa, something I was really good at. And then about 4 years ago, I found out that I had brain cancer, which is pretty rough. I had a brain op and ended up in all sorts of treatment, the radiation, the chemotherapy, etc., and was told that I had 6 months to live. And obviously that was a really, really tough time. So I'm no stranger to our lives being turned on their heads. I'm no stranger to to bad news and to life being very different to what it was before. So if ever there was somebody who could help at this time, I guess, I'm it. And it was learning how not to be a victim to cancer, and learning how to to negotiate that very finite idea of a time frame of my life and where my life was heading and things I could do, things I couldn't do, what was going to happen to me. And I kind of figured at some point in time that I needed, if I was going to overcome the cancer, I needed to beat the thoughts in my head first. And the best way to do that was to enter another Ironman. And so throughout the last 4 years, I've beaten cancer 3 times, 3 different diagnoses. And in that same time, I've completed a number of full Ironman events and other endurance events. So essentially just learn to understand how powerful the mind is and how much the power of purpose means in our lives.
Wow. So tell me, I mean, what is that feeling? Somebody says to you, you got 6 months to live. I mean, what is that feeling? What is it like to sit with that kind of information?
Sure. Yeah. So instantly, I often think back to that time, and that was just the first time I had 2 more terminal diagnoses. Just wishing that somebody was there, because the minute you're just looking at this person who the words are coming out and you can hear what they're saying, but the shock of what you're hearing and the complete disbelief is denial is surely this can't be my life. Surely this isn't real. It can pinch me now. I remember the blood draining from my face and the instant sweat. My palms were sweaty and it was just sort of dull throb. And then I got angry because it's a very, very rare form of cancer and a very aggressive form of cancer. And there's no research done, there's no cure, there's not enough people to even put a test group together. And yet somebody was telling me what the prediction was in my life. And so my questions were, how dare you tell me they're average? Because the way I understand it is that prediction is based on an average number of people. And who were those people? Were they athletes? Were they, how old were they? What did their lives look like? How dare you categorize me? And so there was a lot of anger from that point of view, and I really battled to accept it. And as much as you try not to be a victim, it's impossible not to be. How can you not? And then I went on a full tangent of, okay, that's it, hashtag cancer warrior. I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to beat this thing. And I see this happening right now in the middle of this crisis, that you become so focused on the obstacle, you become so focused on this thing that is holding back your life, or this thing that has completely turned your life upside down, and that makes you even more of a victim of that thing. So despite me doing everything I possibly could to try and fight the disease, I actually ended up becoming more of a victim of it than anything else. And to a large extent, that's what most of our lives are like. I mean, there are very few of us, you look at the stats, very few of us in South Africa that have the virus, but yet we feel like we are victims of this thing. And we act like we're victims of this thing. We're victims of the circumstances of it. But so that was I think that was the hardest struggle for me when somebody told me this is what it is to, number one, accept that, and number two, to work through all those emotions. And until you can do that, it's very difficult to move forward. But I think the gift at that time, the biggest gift was the gift of authenticity. I got to that point where it doesn't matter who I am or what I do right now. We spend so much of our lives trying to be everything that everybody expects us to be, and to be everything we think the world needs us to be. And what a gift to kind of think, well, actually, stuff it. I have nothing to prove to anybody. But then the problem was, well, who am I then? If I don't have to be all of that stuff that I've been conditioned to believe and I spent my entire life trying to be, and now I can just be me, well, who the hell is that? So there was also a bit of identity crisis throughout all of it. There really was. And it's hard to put into words. I mean, how can you possibly describe what it feels like? I would say it's just massive trauma. And I think that's the other thing, I'm sure you can relate as well, Jared, that right now, there's a collective trauma of this is what has happened to us. Our lives have been turned on their heads. We can't run our businesses. We're not earning money. We still have to have payments to make. Our future looks so uncertain. Are we even going to emerge from a lockdown on the 30th of April? Is there going to be extension? Are we one of the industries that are gradually going to trickle back? Or what is that going to look like? And that's a really, really tough place to be. There's a lot of trauma, but the problem is that we can't deal with the trauma like we normally would, because when we are hit by trauma, our bodies respond that prehistoric ape brain that says flight or fight. And the problem is that we can't do either. You can't fight something you can't see, and you've got no control of it, and you can't flight because you can't leave your house. Damn it! So how do how do you negotiate that landscape? And so I think a lot of people don't realize that they're in a space of trauma. And how do you even deal with that? And that's just a little bit of how it felt for me at that time. You know, this trauma, that how do you deal? Brain cancer, it's in my head. I can't see it. How do I fight this thing? I can't flee from it because I'm stuck with it. What do I do with it?
Wow. Geez, you know, just the thoughts of it. I'm trying to put myself into your shoes now. I'm trying to put myself into your state of mind, and also the state of mind of your loved ones. I mean, because it's never just us that go through these experiences, right? We go through these experiences as a collective, and I'm trying to, you know, just resonate with that emotionally. And just from what I'm feeling here, must have been tough. But obviously, at some point, you made a decision to take ownership of this thing. And what was that process like for you?
Okay, that's a cool question, and also cool that that you've just unwittingly started the process with something very cool about the loved ones. So so right now, I mean, we are. I think one of the things I'm speaking about the most is leadership of self. And in fact, one of my talks at the moment is called Leadership Resilience Masterclass, and essentially, you know, what's most important right now is our leadership of self and being resilient as leaders. And a lot of people say, well, you know, I'm not really a leader. I work for a company or I have a position there, or I work for myself or whatever. But we are called upon to be leaders of self, because how you know, if I just say to you, Jared, if you could see yourself in the future, or about a year from now, looking back at this moment, and you had to score yourself and your ability to have led yourself through this crisis, just yourself, would you be saying to me, oh, geez, step aside, Cyril, I've got this, you know, Jared for president? Or would you be saying, gee, I think I really could have done that better? And that's really what it is, and leadership of self is emotional intelligence, and it's understanding the impact of our actions on others, and being empathetic towards others, and how we respond to them. And I tried extremely hard at that time to make sure that my kids were not impacted, and that Dad was, you know, leading himself through this personal crisis in a way that wasn't going to impact on them. And as little kids, the last thing I really wanted was them to have to deal with brain cancer and the idea of their dad potentially dying. So I did absolutely everything I possibly could to try and keep that from him, and put it on a brave face. And yes, I had an operation, but it was to remove a tumor, and there was nothing about the cancer. And I really tried hard, and going through the radiation was tough. And you know, imagine you getting nuked in your brain, the same spot every single day, 35 days of treatments. And the swelling just gets more and more, but it can't go anywhere because it's in your brain, right? So I was really battling. And the last week of radiation, I'm divorced, and I have my kids 1 week with me and 1 week with their mom. Been very fortunate. Lockdown, they've been with me, which has been amazing. But I picked them up from aftercare, and the eldest McKinnon said to me, Daddy, I'm really sorry, but I've got this project and it's due for tomorrow. And I was like, oh man, you know, if the parents listen to this, you'll understand there's a problem with that sentence, because homework's the stuff that's due for tomorrow, and projects are the stuff that's like for in the future. I was like, oh, like really, you know, and she was very apologetic about, I'm really sorry, she wrote it down, doesn't know what happened. So I said, okay, well, what is this project? And she said to me, Dad, we've got to put together the solar system. And I'm like, really? The solar system? She said, yeah, we've got to go to a craft shop and get these polystyrene balls, and then we've got to paint them like the various planets, and we've got to measure them out, and then I've got to hand it in. I'm like, tomorrow? Like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's go. And we climb the car and off we go, and I live in Rampart Ridge, and I'll never forget traveling along Esterhout Road and crossing over Bayers Nordia Lifestyle Nursery on the right-hand side, going to the Rand Ridge Mall, the craft shop. I was slumped over the steering wheel, waiting for the robot to change, and this little voice pipes up and she says, Daddy, are you okay? And I said to her, Ish, I'm really battling, but if we're just going to get this thing done, and then I'm going to get home and lie down for a bit, and I'm not going to make supper tonight, it'll be takeaways or deliveries. And then, I'll get this project done. And silence for a little bit. And then she popped up and she said, Daddy, nobody said it would be easy. And I whipped around. I was like, where on earth did that come from? You've never heard that from me? Did your mom tell you that? Where did that come from? And she was 10 at the time. And to this day, I still don't know where those words came from. And when I asked her, she almost got defensive, as if, well, and she said, Daddy, I don't know what else to say. And that was the catalyst, Jared, that I needed. My 10-year-old, most unwitting person to come from, my 10-year-old telling me, Daddy, if you're going to survive this thing, nobody said it would be easy, and you're going to have to change how you think. And that was amazing. The very next day, I thought, okay, that's it. If I can just change the thoughts in my head, and as much as I think that I'm overcoming cancer, I'm actually more of a victim of it, because that's what I think about. That's what my life is. You need to start claiming back your power. And what does that look like? And so for some of us in lockdown, that means getting your running shoes out and walking up and down your passage, or walking up and down your balcony, or just doing exercise or whatever. And that's what it was for me. If we could just put on some running shoes and walk around the block, in one way, I was beating the thoughts in my head. And I knew that I needed to do that first, because what we think determines an outcome, and I need to change what I was thinking about. So for me, advice to anybody out there, if you want to survive this crisis and even thrive through it, what's very important is that you take control of what you're thinking, and you make sure that you are a incredibly strict gatekeeper to the thoughts in your head. And for all of us right now, what we're doing is we're relying on this thing. And essentially, we're in this little silo. And if I look outside now, it's a beautiful day in Johannesburg. There's a couple of dotted little clouds around and blue skies. The trees are starting to change color. I'm looking at the grass that needs to be mowed. But apart from that, it looks like a pretty normal day in my household. How do I know things are not normal? Well, maybe they are normal. I don't know. It depends on what we're reading, and it depends what we're allowing into our thoughts. And I've taken myself off every single WhatsApp group that I possibly can, because those things right now are, slip my wrists, please, this is so bad. People are still sharing fake news and panicking, and it's like, oh man. So I've taken myself off that, and I don't have TV. I dumped that in 2012, so there's no TV running in the background. But we really need to be very careful of what we're reading and who we're listening to, because that is what's determining what we think, and our thoughts determine our perceptions. Our perceptions determine our reality, and our reality determines our actions. So if we want our actions to be different, we need to think differently, and that's the challenge right now. And it was for me back then. Is if I can think differently, my actions will be different, and I know that that's giving myself the best shot of getting through this.
So, I mean, that's amazing, because everything that's, every sort of step forward has to happen here first and here, right? That's the only way. You need to come up with the thought process of today's the day I change something, connect to that emotionally, and then physically carry that out. I mean, those are the principles of how we formulated the platform, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And that is really the holy trinity of anything in life, right? If you want to change circumstance, change your thinking, change your feelings, and change the results.
100%. So normally the thinking comes on the feeling. So we have this struggle the whole time between the thinking brain and the feeling brain. And for most of us, we think, well, if I could just damn well control the feeling brain, then I'd be cool. Because the feeling brain says, fridge, 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 I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry. So just, hey, stop that. We don't really like chocolate and red wine. But that's the feeling brain. If I can control that thing, because imagine if I could control my life with my rational thoughts. And so most people think that the thinking brain is what actually controls us and drives us to achieve amazing things. And that's actually not true at all. It's your feeling brain that engages the thinking brain to get you moving in the right direction. So I wrote a book called The Power of Purpose. And unfortunately, it was due to be released on shelves in May. I'm very excited about this thing. And now it's locked down. It's been extended and extended again, but that's okay. It's going to come out at some stage. But the whole premise of the book is, people say to me, Richard, how on earth have you survived brain cancer? 3 times, what the hell? And for me, it's the power of purpose. And that comes from how badly I want to survive. And that's that feeling, the thing that drives me, which then predicts my behavior. And the behavior must be obviously in line with those thoughts. So if you're feeling like you want to red wine chocolate, rather figure out what that feeling is about, and deal with that, rather than say, well, this is a bad feeling, I shouldn't have it, in which case, you're just going to have more of the same. So, how can you change those thoughts? Well, it's to get in touch with the feelings. And right now, that's a tough landscape, because a lot of those feelings are less than positive. So the way, what I'm saying to people right now is, okay, so I'm a radical optimist. That's it. I've always been radically optimistic in my life. And I've always said that being optimistic is a radical and a rebellious choice. It's not the normal choice. And if you're optimistic right now, you're a rebel. You doesn't want to be a rebel, right? But being radically optimistic, people say to me, how on earth do you manage to stay so positive? I'm like, well, no, I'm not always positive. But there's a big difference between being positive and being optimistic. I can be radically optimistic about the future, about being South African, about being part of the comeback kid nation, and I think if any nation was set up to survive and thrive through this, Zanzi, there we go, it's us. So, so I'm radically optimistic, but that doesn't mean I have to be positive right now. And that's hard. and I put a video out the other day called how to survive a less than optimal day in lockdown. And that day was it was less than optimal for sure. I recorded the video at 7:30 in the evening, and I just had my first shower of the day, and I got out of my PJs into a fresh set of PJs. That was it. That's not the day I wanted. My alarm clock had gone off at 5 o'clock as usual. I did snooze, it snoozed, it snoozed. Eventually got out of bed late, but then I looked back and I thought, okay, but does that mean that I had a bad day? You know, and the minute we think I had a bad day, yeah, it was a bad day, your brain goes to work, because that's the thought that you're putting into your brain, which you can control. And the brain doesn't say, well, you know, okay, keep that thought out of here because that's not a good thought. The brain says, bring it in, bring it in. And then it goes to work at trying to prove that right. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The brain is trying to filter in everything that agrees with that thought, you had a bad day, and filter out everything that doesn't agree with the thought. No, your day wasn't so bad. And you know, when I stopped and thought about it, it was actually a rad day, because I spent 5 hours with McKinnon, my eldest daughter, and my partner Deborah, building McKinnon's puzzle that we worked on for like a week. What a cool bonding time! And then I had some really great work conversations and put a prezzo together, and it was actually quite a cool day. It wasn't quite what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then I needed to figure out how to do it better the next day, and I've got better at that. But that's really what it is trying to control our energy, because I believe that, and here's one, I believe that energy is more contagious than the virus.
Yeah.
So whatever energy we're putting out there is contagious to the people around us, and it's far more dangerous than the virus as well. I honestly believe that.
So I loved what you touched on there regarding energy, because we know that the world is made up of energies and frequencies. I mean, that's just the way things are. You know, science tells us that that's how things work. Things always work at a vibrational level. Now, I've got to ask you, in terms of beating this thing, right? The guy says you've got 6 months to live. In your mind, eventually you get to the point where you're like, no, sorry, I don't accept that. And you go down this road of combating that. How much of that was about your state of mind, your energy, I mean, obviously there was treatments and everything involved, but how much of your recovery do you attribute to those things, to your mental state and your emotional state?
So that's a question I get asked often, and that wasn't just the first time, second time, and I went into remission for the third time about a month back. So, you know, every time, what do you attribute this to? And it's a tough question to answer, because even the second time I didn't not do something else because I thought that didn't. You still, you know, when you're in a position of you know, like that, it's so easy. You get so many people saying, yeah, if I get cancer, I wouldn't go with the chemotherapy treatment because that stuff's poisonous and it's all a whole trip. You know, the pharmaceutical industry are making money and blah blah blah. Trust me, if somebody tells me you've got 6 months, you will do whatever it takes, and you'll take whatever you need to. So you know, in amongst all the treatments, you know, stereotactic radiotherapy, the chemo, the diet, I became fanatical about my diet and supplements, and I tried everything from ozone treatments to hyperbaric chamber to you name it, I did it. But I honestly do believe that, and it sounds so contrite, but I honestly do believe that the attitude and the thoughts and how bad you want it and how determined you are and the fight that you put up inside is a massive part of it. I really do. Essentially, any specialist or doctor will tell you that overcoming something like that is 50% what you believe in your head and 50% modern medicine. And the one half they can do, you know, they've got a lot of control over, and the other they've got zero control over. And if they could control that, they'd have better successes. So it doesn't mean that every person who has an amazing attitude and believes that they are going to survive this thing is going to survive it. I've seen some of the toughest people I know succumb to the disease because it's a crappy disease. But every single one of those people will confound the doctors. They'll live longer than they were told they were going to. They'll have a better quality of life, and they'll enjoy more happiness, actually, which is what life is about at the end of the day. You know, where happiness is a feeling and not necessarily a destination. Nothing has to happen. So, you know, I think that it's a massive part of it. And call that energy, call that, you know, attitude, whatever it is. Yeah, it's huge. And the same thing now. You know, I've seen some people who are in a horrible place right now, and somehow are managing to exude energy that is I can only look back and say, wow, you know, I thought I was quite good at this stuff. You put me to shame. But that really is it, you know, because I think when you're in a place of feeling like a victim, and when your energy is negative, you're only going to attract more of that stuff, as hard as it is. That's that's the truth.
So, I mean, you know, like you were saying, this is not you haven't, not once, not twice, but 3 times you've been in the same place. Would you say that there's some level of mental and emotional resilience that's been built up over this period?
Yeah, I feel old. So, yeah, for sure. I think that's, you know, a lot of the specialists have said to me, if ever we could pick the one person who's mostly likely to survive this thing, it would probably be you. And the first time I survived it, it was one of only about 120 people in the world to ever survive that form of cancer. So, but I mean, when you're in it, you kind of think, okay, that's great. But, you know, you also say if they could pick one person who's least likely to get it, it would also be me. So that doesn't really help, does it?
Yeah.
But I believe that the years and years and years of endurance, sport, and most of the time in training I've spent on my own. So hours and hours and hours, you know, in my own head, hurting, suffering, and pushing through things. So you know, I'm really good at doing that. But you know, since then, even more so, absolutely. So I think each time it came back, it was harder to get to that place of, okay, I need to sort this out, because if I don't, I'm not gonna survive this thing. Just because I think the way that people can relate right now is you're told 21 days, and on day 14 you're like, that's a 2/3 in, I only got 1 more week to go, I got this. And then you're told it's 2 more weeks, and then it's like, yo man, yo, and it becomes a bit harder because now you're already stuck in this thing and you know what it's taken out of you. And in the beginning you might be like me. The first couple of days of lockdown, I was like, woohoo, staycation, baby, this is so cool. You know, I'm doing those Strava loops around my house and 5Ks, and so cool, looking at everybody else's designs around their house. And then at day 5 and day 6, you're like, yeah, I don't know that I can run around my house 172 times to complete 2 kilometers, you know. And then for me, on that Thursday, and I knew, I even told people that we're going to get an extension. There's no other country in the world that hasn't. We are going to get one. Get your head around it. And still on that Thursday night, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this just got real.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was, okay, Rich. The feeling was, you know, just 1 more week. If you don't train for a week, if you sit on your backside and do nothing, it's just 1 more week, and then life goes to normal in a week, and you're going to be fine. And now it's like, no, it's 3 weeks now. It's 3 weeks, and you cannot. No. So since then, and since that Friday last week, I have exercised every single day. And that's that mental resilience that says, okay, hold on 2 seconds. We're in this for the long run, and how are you going to stay sane, and how are you going to get yourself through it? And that's a certain amount of self-discipline, and it's grit. It's pure grit. It's saying, you know, how badly do you want to be the person who failed at this thing?
Yeah.
Or, you know, this mental leadership resilience masterclass, or are you going to come out of it with flying colors? So at that point in time, it's like, all right, this is when things have to kick in.
Yeah.
But I always say to people that nothing ever changes unless we are uncomfortable. So if you think about it, if you're comfortable in your life, no matter how much you might desire change, you've got very little chance of actually achieving any kind of significant change in your life. And the reason is purely you're just comfortable. But the minute you're in a place of discomfort, and I think that forced change is the best change, because you've got no option. When the level of discomfort is that high, discomfort sparks outrageous achievements. You're going to achieve stuff. And I think the 3 weeks wasn't uncomfortable enough. In fact, my partner Deborah and I had this chat in the second week, and actually said that I don't think the 3 weeks is long enough for people to have long-lasting changes. And now I'm not talking about the changes, people that are on the bread line and really bad to survive and really bad. That's not what I'm talking about right now. And my heart goes out, and you know, I think all of us need to be doing more in terms of what we can do for people who are not in the position we're in. But for middle-class folk, middle-class to upper-class folk, you know, this wasn't long enough to really have forced you to change how you see the world, and change how you think about the world, and change how you do things. And it's just too easy to slip back into that, going back to normal. And I saw that myself the first time I went into remission. As much as I'd made so many dramatic changes, as much as my thinking had changed, and I'd become more authentic, and I valued life, and I was living life every single day. And a couple of months into remission, you suddenly start sliding back into how it was before, because now things are okay, right? We can go back. And that's what worries me after this, is that people are going to, you know, for a while it's going to be, okay, that's great, and we're going to be washing our hands and being very worried and concerned about things and looking out for other people and a new normal. And then it's just too easy to go back, you know. And once you've had that discomfort and once you've had to learn that lesson for long enough, I think you develop habits. And so from that point of view, 5 weeks is amazing. 7 weeks, 18 weeks, 27 weeks, 37 weeks would be fabulous. Please no. But it would be, because that's what develops ingrained behavior.
Yeah.
And that's where resilience comes in, where you actually have to. So that's what cancer taught me is that you when you don't have a choice, what are the choices you make?
Yeah.
And that might sound like it's a contradiction when you don't have a choice, what choices, but it isn't. You don't have a choice to be like you were, to live like you were. Your life is no longer like that.
Yeah.
And what are the choices you're now going to make? And that's a massive test in grit and resilience right now. What are the choices that you're going to make?
Yeah. I can't help but think a couple of days ago, I saw this meme about Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in isolation and he came out of this thing on the other side. And apparently there was some controversy about it. But there's something quite unique about the story that everybody seems to forget, because when Mandela went into his prison term, he was a much younger man. He was a very angry man, and he was an activist. He was a fighter. He was prepared to do whatever it took to liberate his people. And he did some pretty hectic stuff, he went in with a lot of anger. He went in with a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. After spending so much time with himself, and I know this is a hectic thing that he went through. It was incredibly difficult, but after spending all that time with himself, he studied more law, he studied more poetry, he studied politics, he studied geography. He learned so much. And when he came out this person that really, his one ambition, his entire ambition was to unify, was to bring people together, was to take away the hurt, was to take away the pain. So there's something to be said for these times. We're going through all these challenging times in our lives right now, and they really are challenging. And there's a lot of people, as you were saying, that are really, really battling. But we have to find the things in this, we have to find the beauty in this, and we have to take the opportunities that we have now to be able to create something and go forward with it, because self-sustainability is just not there in the way the world is before we went into Corona. There is no self-sustainability.
So I agree with you 100%. And so one of the other questions I get asked, and it's a difficult question to answer. And I try and answer it truthfully every single time. But Richard, if you could have not had to go through this 4-year struggle, and I'm very aware of the fact that as much as I'm in remission now, the chances of it coming back in whatever form are extremely high. Nobody says to you, remission isn't that, okay, cool, you're fine, you hunky-dory, life's great, off you go. It's just look over your shoulder, that cold, that niggle, that feeling, could this be, it's back. And if you didn't have to go through this, but you remained the person you were before the cancer, would that have been your choice? Or would you still have gone through this because of the person that cancer has now made out of you? And it's it's taken its toll, and it's been incredibly tough, and I've lost a lot. But I've gained so much. I'm not the person I was. You can never be that person. I've had to navigate Richard pre-cancer, Richard with cancer, Richard post-cancer, and it's not the same person. How could it be? And I mean, maybe easier to answer now in remission, but I wouldn't want to go back. Because the gifts of my hardships, the gift of the struggle, the gift of the fight with cancer has been nothing short of an unbelievable blessing to me. In terms of the direction my life has changed, everything. I kind of figure I didn't survive cancer just to have survived cancer. My life needs to mean more now. The fact that I'm a survivor, and things that I've learned, and how I've learned to overcome struggles, and how I've learned to do some pretty epic things that nobody thought were possible, purely by believing that I could. Surely there's a lesson in there that for others. So yeah, and in no way there's no ways I can compare myself to Nelson, but and from a concept point of view, absolutely. Every single one of us, if we choose to, are going to emerge from this a stronger, better, evolved person. And that's just what it is. Change is messy, it's hard, it's painful, it sucks, it's awful in that. So I dig this, right? So you would have seen that we've all seen that picture of this is your comfort zone, and then this is where magic happens. You've seen that, right? So magic happens outside of your comfort zone. And the incredible thing right now is comfort zone. Has anybody still got one of these comfort zones? No, their comfort's going, it's gone. So in other words, your life, my life, all of our lives, we're living in the magic, baby. That's where it is. As much as it's messy and hard, we're making magic right now. And it's messy and it's hard and it's crap. But trust me, it lands, it's pulling you in the right direction if you choose to let it. or you can be an angry, sullen, Nelson, there are people that have been to jail and have come out worse.
Yeah.
Everything, all the bad stuff I learned in prison.
Yeah.
There's that as well. It's a cognitive choice, and every single one of us have those choices right now. When you feel you don't have a choice, that's when you need to make really clever choices. And if you choose to go through this, you will, as hard and as messy as it's going to be. So for me, it became I resigned. The second time I went into remission, I phoned up my old CEO and I said, okay, Andrew, that's it. I'm resigning. I'm in remission. I'm resigning. And he said, no, you're not. And we had this 3 months. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And eventually he said, you know what, I actually need to let you go because this is what you need to do. And for me, I started a company called the Enrichment Project, and my T-shirt here is Enrich. And I believe that if I can just tell my story in some kind of way that can help people to change their way of thinking, I've somehow brought some enrichment to their lives. And if that's what cancer has done for me, to enable me to try in a small little way to enrich other people's lives, well, there was a fight well fought.
You know, everything that you've just said now can be summed up in one very powerful word, and that's purpose. It's purpose, exactly. Right? So you have to ask yourself, and before all of this stuff happened to you, did you actually have a defining purpose?
I did, and that's what it was. So for me, I've always said that the best thing I've ever done with my life is my 2 little girls. That's it. Being a father to those 2 little girls is the best thing I've done with my life. And I've done some epic things with my life. I've made some massive mistakes too. I've made some huge, humongous mistakes. I've really stuffed up in my life a lot. And that's how we grow, right? But so that was my purpose for me and this is kind of, it just sounds wrong when it comes out, but it's true. I couldn't afford to die. Yeah. I'd been through a really hectic divorce. I don't think there's such a thing as a non-hectic divorce. I went through financial ruin. I lost a house at the bank. I really had to start from scratch again, owing a lot of money. It was hectic. And so all of that, it was my girls. But I just got to the point where I was kind of, okay, I'm digging myself. I'm feeling like I've just reached that point. Great. And now, I've got this, and the chances are very high that I'm going to die. And then you kind of think, but hold on, I haven't got enough in place to take care of my 2 little girls, so that their schooling is taken care of, their tertiary education is taken care of, their first car, whatever it is. I can't actually afford to die right now because I'm going to leave these kids without a dad, number one, and without the financial stability. And when you realize that, and also just 2 very different parents, amazing parents, they're very different parents, and one of them's gone. And even my 2 girls without a dad, it was wow. So that became it. That was my biggest reason, my why. The meaning of my life and my existence. So, did I have that before? For sure I did. I think we all do. And I've spent a life, as I said in the beginning, coaching people and teaching people and uplifting people and training people in various different guises. That's my thing. That's my calling and my passion. But it's never been as strong and as defined and as significant as it is now. And that really has, it's clarity that a terminal disease has brought to me. And I think it's the clarity that a lot of us are going to feel right now. When you've got your back against the wall, you develop clarity. And that's a gift. So, I put out a video to matric students a couple of weeks back or a week ago. I kind of figured, wow, just imagine being in matric right now, the final year of your school. This is everything that you dreamed of, getting out of school, your final year, how important it is, how important your marks are. And here you are sitting at home and you don't even know when you're going to back to school, what your exam's going to look like. Wow. And I put out a video and I said, just video support and encouragement and inspiration. And I ended off saying that you've got an opportunity to earn a distinction in 2 new subjects. And those subjects are leadership of self and emotional intelligence. And they're 2 subjects that no school and no university on this planet can teach you. But they're subjects that are more important than any other subjects that you're currently studying. Because the world we're moving into now, they might not even be relevant. And wow, what an opportunity to earn a distinction in those subjects. And I guess it's not just the kids, not just the students. Every single one of us has an opportunity to come out of this with distinctions in different things. And that's the gift.
It reminds me of that phrase, get busy living or get busy dying. And that's really what it is. All of us are guaranteed of that one thing. We're all gonna get the same end. And but not all of us are living to our full potential. And we go on each day like every day is just going to be promised. And the reality is that You know, not even tomorrow is promised. All we have is right now, Richard.
Yeah. So you know what's interesting there is when I first started off, I was looking, you know, what I'm going to talk about, what's it going to be, and a really good friend of mine, Mike Stopforth, talking about the content. He said, "But Rich, you're the cancer guy. You talk about cancer." I'm like, I think I'm more than that. You know, I want to talk about I'm like a sales guru and business and negotiation and people and NLP and it was like, yeah. And he's like, dude, but that's what it is, you know. And I was like, okay, I can't get my head around that one. And then my first talk was called Your Terminal, and because that was one of the realizations I went through, is that, you know, why am I the guy who's terminal? Because you know, I don't know if anybody is getting out of this thing alive. You know, so why am I it? And the realization I had was that I might have terminal brain cancer, but at any given time I could walk outside and be hit by a bus. You know, with stage 4 brain cancer, I could have a heart attack. This is South Africa after all. Somebody could shoot me in the head. You know, anything could happen. Why is it this? And then I thought, if any of those things claim me, if I died for any other reason with stage 4 brain cancer, guess what? I'm dying a cancer survivor. You know, at what point in time do I get to be a cancer survivor? When I survived the disease? No, look at me, I'm surviving, you know? So very definitely, there were some very big gifts that were given to me that, number one, live your life as if you're a survivor of absolutely everything that has ever happened to you. Because you right now are a survivor of everything. If you're married right now, you're a survivor of marriage. Men, she didn't kill you during lockdown. That's amazing. If you're divorced, not only are you a survivor of marriage, you're a survivor of divorce as well. Look at you, double survivor. If your house is mortgaged, if your car is financed, you're a survivor of debt. You're a survivor of lockdown. Your kids being a teacher, a homeschooling teacher. You're already a survivor of those things purely because you're breathing right now. Look at you. Nothing has to happen for you to be a survivor. And you've got a 100% success rate of surviving everything up until this point in your life. So, you know, how are you living your life? Are you living your life as a survivor of everything that has ever happened to you? Or are you living your life just trying to survive today in lockdown so you can get to tomorrow in lockdown so you can get out of lockdown to return to the life you had before?
Yeah.
So not everybody who has a terminal disease is going to overcome it, as we said. But just sitting there at an oncology center with a drip in your arm and having chemotherapy for hours, and you're watching these patients coming through, and just they walk through the door, and I could just look at the demeanor in the eyes and say that person is a cancer survivor, or that cancer is a person's cancer victim. The people that they've got a horrible cancer prognosis, and have decided, okay, that's it, I'm going to die. Put it on their PJs and sat on the couch and waited to die. And the other people who said, well, stuff this, I'm going to live my life. And that, you know, there's a very, very big divide. And it doesn't mean that every single person who says stuff this, I'm going to live. But every single one of us, as you said, we are all terminal. None of us are getting out of this in this current form, you know, no matter what you might believe from a religion or ideological point of view. And even now in lockdown, how are you living your life as a survivor of everything that has ever happened to you? And that's a very big question and a big challenge from me to you. You know, are you living your life like a survivor?
Folks, if you're joining us now, talking to Richard Wright, he is a cancer survivor, and we're just having the most amazing discussion. My message to you is, if you are going through a very difficult time right now, you might have lost your job, you might have lost your income, you might be battling with relationships in your current environment. Guess what? You are alive right now. You have this moment. You are alive, and you have the most amazing gift. And you get to live that gift right now in this moment in time. Richard, I just want to, on a last final parting note, what would be your message to South Africa right now?
Okay, two things. Number one, what I've learned through terminal cancer prognoses is that you are already equipped with everything that you could possibly need to get through this. And I can say that for a fact. As much as you might think that your back is up against the wall, as much as you might think that you don't have what it takes, that you don't know that you're going to get through this, that you don't think that you can, you know, you're gripped by fear, you're gripped by anxiety, you're gripped by everything that's happened to you, feeling like, you know, you've reached the end of what you can manage and control. What I need to tell you is that you are equipped to handle absolutely everything that life is throwing at you right now. And that I can tell you for a fact. You don't need to go and get it from anywhere. You can find it within. You are equipped. And number two is that you will get through this. Absolutely every single thing that's happened to you in your life, you've got through it. And this too, you're going to get through it. And And it's just how you choose to get through it that's really, really important. So if anything, my advice is stop watching the news, stop listening to negative sentiments, stop with that horrible rubbish of surrounding yourself. You get to decide what you believe, you get to decide what you listen to, who you listen to, and stop with the negative stuff, because this is what you need to control. And if you can control this, your outcome will be different. Control the thing that you're fighting with between your ears. Because for me, that's how I've survived cancer, and I know that's how you are going to survive this pandemic. And right now you're breathing, you're surviving, you're beauty.
Beautiful, man. That's a stunning message. Richard, if guys want to connect with you or they want to get involved in your initiatives or anything that you're doing, where do they go?
Please. So I'm on all the social media platforms, Richard Wright. I am richardwright.com website. Please connect with me. Actually put a video out there so obviously I've relooked at my entire business, and I'm doing virtual keynotes now, and everything's online, and that's been so amazing. And I'm loving it, absolutely loving what I'm doing. And I'm doing a whole bunch of videos for companies as well, and they're putting them out to their staff and their employees every day or every couple of days, and it's just so incredible to be a part of that. And the last one I recorded of a series of 10 for a company, I recorded in black and white. It was monochrome, and I said that this is the beauty of this time, is the sharing of stories, because that's the color. And we might be in isolation right now, and we might be in lockdown, but share the stories, share each other's stories, share each other's journey, because that's what brings color to our lives. So I'm asking you, if in some way you feel that I've brought a bit of color in your life today, come into my life and bring some color. So hook up with me on the social network platforms and bring some color to my life, and I'd love that, because that's what it is. It's just sharing our journey with like-minded people, and we're going to get through this together, and come and join me in my journey.
Richard Wright, ladies and gentlemen. Richard, thank you so much for spending time with us. We really enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks for the privilege. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.